So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for this session. Without further ado, let me introduce you and give a massive warm welcome to Claire and Julia. Can we have a round of applause, please? So, as you can see by the title, we're really talking about transformation in LNG in partnership with Dataiku. So I think the best place to start is probably to get some introductions. So first of all, perhaps Claire, if you could maybe introduce your role in LNG, that'd be great.
Yeah, so hi, my name's Claire Thompson. I'm the Group Chief Data and Analytics Officer for Legal & General. I've been there for nearly 4 years. It'll be at the end of February. And there's sort of two aspects to my role. One, working across the organisation to understand how we start to transform it using data and analytics. And then also have an execution arm. So I do lead the data science team. We host the single customer view that we have as an organisation and the marketing database and a few other bits and pieces like real-time data streaming capability and all sorts. So yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. And Julia, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Julia Griffiths. I'm one of the data analytics managers within the marketing part of LNG Retail, and I am responsible for the AI and the data strategy within our customer insight part of our department.
So we've obviously decided to have sort of a view from the group and a view from the business. So I think that should hopefully come through in this talk, because I know it's a common, not necessarily challenge, but a common setup within all the organisations. So Dataiku and LNG have been in partnership for, let's say, a short while now. So Claire, it would be great to hear from you on sort of what triggered that change. Like, what was the first sort of moments that made you think, actually, we do want to go on this change journey?
Yeah, so we were, as an organisation, as you'd expect with what we do, we were already using data for predictive modelling. We have a huge number of actuaries and accountants and marketing teams across the organisation. And therefore, for us, the journey we were on wasn't to do with proving value from predictive modelling. It was definitely more to do with, how do we start to bring our coding and non-coding communities together into one place, because we do have both in the organisation. And how do we start to think about the actual governance around that and start to make our lives a lot easier through automating some of those governance tasks, thinking about how we were going to monitor those models in a different way, rather than probably what's happening across the board in lots of different ways with lots of different tooling. So there's obviously a simplification journey there as well to sort of try and bring and amalgamate those things together. So that's what I was trying to achieve, because I sit within group and I'm looking across the organisation. And it's also the reason why I thought it'd be really good to have Julia here today, because it's one thing to have my view, but actually it was working with business divisions and teams like Julia's to understand what we were going to do. So it'd be good to hear from what it was like from you and from your experience of that.
Yeah, great. Claire did a really great job and her team about engaging her with the business. I know it is difficult when you've got lots of different functions that have all got different kind of expectations and ways of working. But I would say for us, from a data science part of our team, it is about changing the ways of working. And I would say not only because it's a new application, which obviously needs different ways of working, but also because we wanted to take some of the functionality that Dataiku actually has. So that is around some of the stuff that Claire was saying around model governance, the auto-documentation functions, and the collaborative nature of working on projects together, which is really important. I mean, for everybody, even in our team specifically, we are a multi-team and a multi-site organisation, so bringing that stuff together and working collaboratively is really, really important, and it was quite seamless for us to do that. So.
Yeah,
that's great to hear, because obviously Dataiku has a part in that. Maybe you could share. You've talked about the capabilities required. Maybe Julie, you could talk a little bit around the specific use cases and what you're really trying to achieve from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, I mean, we're very fortunate that we've got a research and an insight part of the team. So we use behavioral science to shape a lot of our A/B testing. And we've managed to automate a lot of our A/B testing away, which means that we can work out which variants are outperforming, maybe stop ones that maybe aren't. And that gives us a real efficiency in the way that we can work. So that's really great. And also because we're getting those signals from the business, it means that we can really shape our kind of marketing and our sales funnel strategy through the voice of the customer rather than what we think that we're going to do. I think there's other elements of that as well, like from a marketing perspective, we're obviously always looking to optimize our budgets. Budget is a really key thing for us. So we've managed to recode some of our attribution modeling, and we've looked at some media mix modeling, which is really great, and it's been a real benefit for us, and we now know where to spend our money. So for people that maybe don't know about attribution modeling, that's where you take a credit for each of the touch points, and then you work out basically which is the most important strategy for you. So that's, we like to affectionately call it, my boss is over there, you've got a lot of cooked spaghetti, and you're trying to get it out into uncooked spaghetti so you can understand where the value is. And then we also use Dataiku then to stack a lot of our models on top of each other, and using that, we obviously have to have the governance of understanding how our models are performing, and we take that really, really seriously. So, yeah.
It all sounds very simple. No, it doesn't. It sounds like you've achieved a lot. So you talked about the need for the capability, governance, no-code, low-code, environment where you can collaborate together, and then some of the specific use cases, which sounds like are in good progress. Maybe Claire first. Obviously, it is a journey. We had a little chat before around some of the challenges that we heard in the main hall, and some of those were resonating. Maybe you could share with the audience some of the challenges that you feel like L&G have faced into and how you've overcome those.
Yeah, and I don't think some of the challenges we faced were with Dataiku, and I think that was mentioned earlier on as well. It's definitely internal challenges, culturally, how we start to perhaps think about changing ourselves and trying to entice people to do something in a different way. It can be a challenge. I think there was a couple of things. So when we were working with you, I think what was really helpful is you really helped us with the business case. We decided to start very small. It wasn't a tool that we went really large with lots of, users from the off. We actually started small and decided to grow that way instead. And I think that really helped, because what it meant was we were able to really think about how we were embedding this tool, how we really want to roll it out, what the governance principles were around it. So that actually we did it in a really good way, and it was a strong foundation from which to build from as we were moving forward. But that business case that you did, you worked with us, looked at our use cases, and we were able to then think and articulate. It made it very easy for me to then go back and build the business case internally to think about the funding, as to, well, this was actually going to help us, yes, with all the governance and the other aspects, but actually speeding up the process in terms of how quickly we were going to be able to get those things out. I think the other part then is, and this is not uncommon, we obviously have existing tooling in the organisation that people were using to leverage this stuff already. And it's always a worry when you bring something new along, because actually people really love the tool they're working on, it's really familiar. When you're under pressure to deliver, people don't like switching. It's very hard because all of a sudden it starts to slow them down. It's a bit clunky, it doesn't feel quite right. So there was a bit of a worry in the back of my head going, yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to convince people to perhaps move away from the tools they like. But actually, I think that's the bit that I was so pleasantly surprised at, that actually people found Dataiku really, they really enjoyed the additional functionality that it brought to their team, what additional, things and activities that they could now do that they couldn't do before. And therefore, I think that switch was, really good. But I think, Julie, you can probably talk a little bit more about that as to how you found it.
I think there's definitely challenges. There's resource challenges, like Claire was saying, around the fact that you've now got to unwind and redo, data pipelines, models, things like that. But I think as leaders in the business that we need to encourage our analysts to look at things as an opportunity to say, right, this is a great way for us to look at, is our data performing in the right way? Are our models robust enough? Could we be looking at it? So it's around shaping the functionality and the benefits that Dataiku bring, with us actually having a fresh perspective maybe over the things that we've been doing for months, years, decades sometimes.
I think we've talked quite a lot about change is a people thing, isn't it? And actually, when we look at our customer base in Northern Europe, you kind of had the early adopters and then sort of the majority, that standard curve. And I think you can almost apply that to your teams, where really sometimes the best thing to do is to focus on those really keen beans that want to make the change, and then show the example of that good change. Is that an approach that you thought about or have taken?
Yeah, we have definitely used use cases to really demonstrate. It's the thing that actually brings it to life for people and demonstrates the capability. I think also, in fairness, one of the other things that helped was the whole Gen AI explosion last year. that really did help us as an organization, because all of a sudden the AI side of things was front and center of the board and our exco members again, and ended up doing a large number of sessions. And I know this, everyone was like having this conversation, but it's really good. And it was really to do with how do you like really take that energy and enthusiasm and like harness it to like demonstrate the value. Because what we didn't want to do was have this massive hype and then you end up and none of the use cases you do really work and they fall flat. And then it's really hard to then pick that energy and excitement back up because they're like, well, that didn't work last time. So we've tried to do that in a really good way, and I think we leveraged that. So last year we stood up an AI accelerator across the group, and that was really looking at some of those generative AI use cases. So I think, I don't know, it's a bit lucky really that we were obviously looking at this partnership and how that then starts to come together, I think. And it had the energy and the momentum behind it to sort of like look at what we were doing, and I think there'll just be more of that now as we start to like prove out the value. But I think that's the bit, because it's not just about the users, it really is about bringing all of those stakeholders, having to convince my boss to go spend that money. We heard from some of the talks this morning, that budget is hard sought after. So, how do I get that over the line? How do I get all of the finance business partners on board to spend the additional money, and look at it in that way? But I think the use cases do really help, and just really promoting them, that was the other big thing. Going back to the board, so had to go back to the board and write the paper and talk about what we were doing and bringing it to life, so that, just continue to keep that energy and enthusiasm up, that no, this isn't just hype, there is actual practical application, and we are delivering value with it.
Yeah, I feel like it could be one of the hardest things, to be honest, in the data space, is to really articulate that value. Julia, do you feel, with that, as Claire said, the sort of surge in obviously Gen AI and all of the hype around that, do you feel that at like a team level as well, where like actually everyone's getting more excited about using that technology? And
yeah, I think everybody is excited about it. Everyone is keen to deliver something off the back of using some of the technology. I think one of the other things I think has been a little bit of a step change for some of this technology as well is probably historically we've always gone for really technical people in these roles, and it's starting to flex a little bit now. I know we want to democratize some of the data and things, but we can now look for people that really want to innovate and that are really curious around the things that they want to do, and really agile in the way that they want to work. So it's encouraging and fostering that culture, I think, as well as the technical. So I think that's quite exciting. And if you can, it is a bit of a step change, I think, in maybe the people element of who we're recruiting, certainly from maybe our team.
Yeah, and again, I think that's one of the big things. We've talked about the sort of bringing together that community of coders and non-coders, and it is that collaboration and getting people to work together and actually demonstrating what's possible. So possibly some of the techniques people wouldn't have thought about before. And I think that's one of the things we tried to do with the AI Accelerator with Gen AI, is like try and educate, to say, look, there's a lot of reusable components. So when you've built best practice into a chatbot, let's build it once, let's do it really, really well, let's figure out how we're going to measure all the accuracy, stop it from hallucinating, and then take all those brilliant components and then go build the other 11, 20, 50, 100 of them, rather than having, 12 different varieties all built in slightly different ways. So really try to push that as well.
Hear the standardization
coming
through a little bit as well from this morning, which is great. So we talked a little bit about sort of why you wanted to make the change, some of the use cases, also some of the cultural challenges, let's say, and how you've overcome those. Maybe we do a short look to the future, and sometimes we ask people like yourself to sort of predict, like, where's the market going to be in X amount of time, but maybe a bit more practically, like, where do you think you can get to in like the next year, 18 months? Because everything's moving so fast. Like, what are your goals there? Go for it, Julia.
Personally, my goals, we're first adopters as a marketing department of Dataiku, and we're really proud of that. I think that also allows us to maybe help shape what that's going to look like for the organization as well, which is also a benefit. We're talking about poison chalice. There's obviously challenges you have to push through, but the opportunity of being able to help shape that is really important. I think for me, it's the excitement of all the synergies of all the other departments coming on board as well, and like the collaboration that we can have across legal in general is really exciting. I think that's really where we get that value, that acceleration of value as it's coming together. So for me personally, in the immediate future, it's, that.
I think for me, I mean, listening to even some of the talks today, there's like S1, we're going really quick, and I have a lot of envy thinking, oh, that'd be amazing to, so I suppose that's where I'd love to start seeing, how do we really start to pick up the pace? And I think it's like that, you're waiting for that snowball effect, and I know it comes, like you work really hard to get to that point, and then all of a sudden, it's like, you're not having to work quite so hard anymore. And actually people do understand, and you've figured out the right processes and the right people to bring together, and it's not quite such a challenge anymore. And then what typically happens is they want everything, and it's a massive prioritization, and then you're not going quickly enough. It's really hard to know where actually we're going to end up, because actually I think the advancements, and I've been in data and analytics for 25 years now, I don't think I've ever seen the pace of change as quick as it is now. And, just to have watching, and actually I was speaking to one of my data scientists here today, just trying to keep up with that pace and trying to figure out, because the new advancements that are coming so quickly. So I think it's really hard to know. I just find it really exciting. What a fantastic opportunity to really, leverage all data and the capability that we have now to really transform the businesses and free people up to do like way more interesting tasks and opportunities, and think about driving value in a completely different way. So I don't quite know where we're going to be in a couple of years, but I just think it's hugely exciting, and I think what an opportunity we now have to really rethink the way that businesses truly operate, and actually from the ground up build this stuff into the processes.
Yeah, and I think there is a difference as well between, a lot of organizations are different as well. So when you're seeing other companies that are working in this agile way, obviously it depends on sort of the legacy you've got, but then the poison chalice versus opportunity definitely rings true, doesn't it? It's like there's so much opportunity.
Regulated, obviously working in a regulated organization, understandably, exactly, has its own. But I think the opportunity's there, and I think it's how do you start to demonstrate, actually, there isn't something you need to be worried about. Actually, this is how we're going to mitigate that risk that you're so concerned about. So I think it's just a huge amount of education. Because I think everyone thought that AI had appeared magically out of nowhere last year, and it was like, no, we've been doing some of this stuff, particularly in the marketing space, for a very long time. It's just a new tool to add into the kit, and actually enabling us to solve other use cases that we hadn't got to before.
I think that was a promise that they're going to be back here in 12 months. Talking about those use cases. So everyone heard it, I think it's recorded, which is fantastic. I think that's all we've got time for. Is there any sort of last sort of comments or anything else you wanted to add? Any other sort of snippets of advice for this audience that's very interested in your journey today?
No, I just think we were very fortunate. We obviously selected you as the company we wanted to work with. And I think we said to you right from the start, we look for companies where actually it is a partnership, and actually, we want to both be successful in terms of what we're doing, and that's definitely what it's felt like since we've. And I know it's not been an easy journey, but it's definitely been, what it's felt like as we've gone through that. So it's been good.
Really appreciate that, Claire.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody. Claire and Julia, round of applause, please.